Hey, News Taco people, it's Victor Landa. I've got something interesting that came across my desk that I wanted to share with you, and it has to do with the law in Alabama. Alabama is the latest state to enact immigration laws or anti-immigrant laws. Their laws are very similar to the laws that have been passed in Arizona and in Georgia. Many of the statutes are identical, but there's one thing that's different about Alabama, and that's that the Alabama law requires school districts and schools to check the citizenship or status, resident status of the children as they are enrolled. Many people in Alabama were thinking that this was going to cause Latino families, immigrant families, to just pick up their roots and leave the state. What's happened is that as we get closer to the beginning of the school year, there really hasn't been a difference in the number of children, of Latino children, that are enrolled in school. And people are trying to figure out why, what's going on. Well, it turns out that people are not, Latinos are not so easily convinced to leave. And the date when this law goes into effect has a lot to do with it. The law goes into effect September the 1st. So families have roughly 2 weeks to register their kids. They're trying to get their children into the school system under that deadline. If they can register their kids before September 1st, then there are no questions asked, and everything is fine. So there seems to be this rush now to get kids enrolled in schools in Alabama. And we're talking about maybe about 4% of the population of Alabama is Latino, and that's pretty sizable when you consider, states in the northeastern United States. It's about 741,000 Latinos in the public schools that are enrolled in grades kindergarten through 12th. This was last year, were Hispanic or Latinos, Hispanic as the Associated Press reports it. This says a lot, I think, about the resilience of Latinos, and maybe a change of mindset, because we do know that Latinos are leaving Georgia, and we do know that they're leaving Arizona, and we know this because of the field workers, and people that aren't there for agricultural work, but also for the service industries and for construction. There was a story in Georgia where there wasn't enough labor to pick the fields. And in Alabama, there was a story of Tuscaloosa where there weren't enough Latinos to rebuild after the devastating tornadoes. But now it seems that Latino families are staying put. We don't know really what to make of it, except that people in Alabama are pretty much scratching their heads as much as we are. But I think there's something to be said here about the nature of the immigrant experience, the nature of buckling down and making do. Okay, so there's a deadline, we got to make it work before the deadline. For some reason, they feel that they can put up with the rest of the laws. And it's contradictory, because on the one hand, the state law says that every child must be educated, and then on the other side, it says, but when they come and register, you got to check for their immigration status. So it's almost like they're funneling, like they're cornering families and children into this corner where the laws intersect, and there's really no way out, except maybe to leave the state, but they're not leaving. We're going to keep a really close eye on this, because it's an interesting, I hate to use a word, but it's an interesting phenomenon of what's happening, again, at the intersection of where laws and immigrants meet, and there's not a loophole, but 2 weeks of a bridge between now and the time that the law goes into effect, and people are trying to slip under it. It'd be interesting to see what happens after September 1st and what happens the next school year. But for now, it's something we're going to keep an eye on.